They talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness. They talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness. They talking all of this madness.
What's going on, everybody? You are watching, you are listening to the Matt Madness Network live on YouTube. I'm your host, Alo Orlando. Clap it up, clap it up. Thank you. So, hope everybody had Father's Day weekend. Over the weekend, it was also your boy's birthday. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right, so not much going on in the world. So we do have a jam-packed wrestling weekend. We have NXT Great American Bash. We have Forbidden Door, and we also have Night of Champions, or as I say, what is it? Night of Two Champions. So, as always, guys, subscribe and turn your post notifications, thumbs up, anything for the algorithm. So, for what I watched over the last week, I did watch the Paul Heyman on Chris Van Vliet show, and we're going to dive heavy into that. So I'm looking forward to talking to that with you guys and reacting to some of the things Paul Heyman said, because it's a very interesting interview, and I think we learned a lot and a lot of first-time knowledge that came out of that interview. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys. And a couple of things I want to react to, a couple of Instagram posts that I thought are interesting about some of the people that I do like that are up and coming. And we have a Cody Rhodes interview, but I think we'll start with this. I think we'll start at Night of Champions because we'll get that out the way. So Night of Champions is this Saturday, first hour streaming on ESPN at 1 o'clock. And we're going to start here. We're going to start with Oba Femi Oba Femi going one-on-one with Jey Uso in the King of the Ring finals. Now, in the King of the Ring tournament, Oba Femi, this is here you see the bracket. Oba Femi won his fatal four-way match, and then we'll go into the next round to defeat Dominic Mysterio. Jey Uso would go on to defeat win his fatal four-way match, and he will defeat Javon Evans in the semifinals match to end up in the finals with Oba Femi. Now, when it comes to this match, I personally, as you guys know, that I've been very critical of bloodline fatigue, and this was a shoo-in, I thought, for Oba Femi to win, but with what things are going on with the bloodline at this moment in time, I'm starting to think that this is here for Jey Uso to kind of win. I'm going to pick Oba Femi, but I do see a way Jey Uso wins this match because of how things are transpiring with the bloodline. Jacob Fatu in the bloodline. As you always know, Jimmy's always the one that's down for all the things that's going on. You know, he's the glue guy. Jay's been essentially pretty much the crash out when it comes to the bloodline. But I do think Oba Femi will win. I do think that idea that I had that he wins King of the Ring, Lesnar interferes. But not Lesnar interferes. He wins King of the Ring. He challenges Lesnar. Title match versus career, night 1, faces Roman night 2, and he comes out as a star. Everything's forgiven for what they did to him, having to face Brock Lesnar yet again. So I personally think that's the way they need to go, but will they go that way? I am not sure, because like I said, with everything that's going on with the bloodline right now, I can 100% see that a way for Jey Uso to become king of the ring because of how the bloodline is being presented. And there could be you could possibly see some friction between Roman and Jey Uso, but I am not for Jey Uso winning this match at all. I'm not. So I am going to go with Oba Femi to win the King of the Ring, because I think that's the most best thing you can do in this situation. And I also think that they have to rectify what they did to Oba Femi at the last Clash pay-per-view. They just have to, because there's no way that you have this guy halt all his momentum after that big moment at WrestleMania, and then you have him lose to Brock Lesnar. The only way to rectify that is have him face Brock night 1, night 2 beat Roman or whoever champion he faces. Because he even told Jey, look, tell Roman I'm coming for him. He's next. But I am going to go Oba Femi, and I do think that Oba Femi will go on and do what I said, and that's face Brock Lesnar night 1 title match versus career, and then go on to beat Roman Reigns at night 2 of SummerSlam. Because I said I was beating a dead horse about, look, this needs to be the summer about these young guys, but clearly has not played out that way, and it's going to play out, and hopefully it plays out to be the summer of Oba Femi at least, because this is what they need. We need some fresh blood, and the fans want it. The fans will lose their minds if they see these two face off, and I think this needs to be the SummerSlam main event. And to make Oba Femi that star, beat Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in a weekend is the absolutely perfect story you could tell. So I'm going to go with Oba Femi to become the king of the ring. Next, Liv Morgan, top 5 DOA. She's going to take on IYO SKY in the Queen of the Ring finals. Now, in the Queen of the Ring tournament, Liv Morgan would win her Fatal 4-Way match, then defeat Charlotte Flair. IYO SKY will win her Fatal 4-Way match and defeat fellow Judgment Day member of Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez. So, when it comes to the whole Liv Morgan storyline in this tournament, a lot of people, they've been very critical about how WWE has booked Liv Morgan in her championship run, and I 100% agree. She has not defended the title. I believe the first time she defended the title was on a non-televised event, and it seemed like they haven't really had anything to do with Liv Morgan. We constantly keep talking about the return of Stephanie Vaquer, this and that. I had a whole storyline with the fallout of the Judgment Day with Roxy and Finn, but Finn's shipped off to SmackDown, so that apparently isn't going to happen anymore. Now, what else can they come out of this? Now, me and Eric talked about how much of a boss move it actually would be if Liv actually did enter this thing. It's like, look, I want it all, because it's similar to when Brock Lesnar was the WWE champion, entered the Royal Rumble match. He said, look, I'm going to WrestleMania and I'm winning it all. So this is a very admirable thing to actually do here. And as always, Judgment Day, one of the most interesting stories on TV, because what they continue to do. Both women in the Judgment Day were in this tournament. Both lost. Roxy earlier, Raquel in the semifinals. And Liv is all about herself winning this match. Liv even tried to divert Raquel away, talking about, look, you can go after Soul. You can go after Soul for the WIC title. And she's like I said, Liv's been all about her, not about the others. Showed no sympathy for Roxy. Showed no sympathy for Raquel. Even when they both advanced to the semifinal matches, all she kept talking about was her and Dom being king and queen. But now, Liv's in the finals against IYO. And IYO, interesting thing, because also, me and Eric, we also picked IYO to win this originally. But with the injury to Rhea, it's very strange, because, all right, it's like, okay, if IYO wins here, is she going to run it back with Liv at SummerSlam? I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I might go contrarian here, and I kind of think Liv's going to win this. We keep talking about the Stephanie Vaquer thing. Will she eventually come back at this event and cost her the champion, cost her the Queen of the Ring? But at this point, there is a very strong chance that Liv can come out on top here. There really is. Especially what was up in the air with Rhea Ripley at this moment in time from her injury perspective. So I am going to go, you know what? I am going to go with, I'm torn. Because like I said, I think the better storyline, and the problem with WWE is their storylines have not been the best. I can see a storyline where Liv wins, and then she even becomes even more unfathomable with the Judgment Day. And it causes them to turn on her. I can see that happening. I really can. But I just can't really see them not putting IYO in this spot. So I am going to go with IYO to become Queen of the Ring. But I would not be shocked if Liv wins this. I really would not at all. Now, next up, we have WUS title on the line. Tiffany Stratton's going to defend her championship against Jade Cargill. This match has become something that's started in the last week and a half. Jade Cargill, she attacked Tiffany Stratton in a tag team match against B-Fab and Michin, and was granted a WUS championship match. Now, we talked about that injury when it comes to Rhea Ripley and how Tiffany replaced her in the poster for the Night of Champions event. And now we have this match to get Tiffany on the card. Now, I do think Tiffany does excuse me. I do think Tiffany is the one to take. Tiffany's going to take this match. I do think she's going to be Jade Cargill, because I think this is just essentially filler. There's not been a lot of build to this at all. There's not really reason for this to happen, because this should be pretty much possibly a Chelsea Green spot or anybody else's spot, because this whole Jade thing came out the blue. This is not something that was on our radar. We saw Jade interacting with Charlotte, and we still have not gotten that Charlotte Jade match one-on-one yet. But this is something that I think they're actually going to they're using as filler, because they had to get Tiffany Stratton on the card because of the Rhea Ripley injury. So I don't have personally much to say about this in particular. I'm going to go with Tiffany Stratton to retain her WUS championship. Now, next up, we have Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker inside this 15-foot high steel cage. And Seth Rollins, he was actually on ESPN First Take today. And he had this to say about the steel cage match that he has with Braun this weekend. Fair use.
So there's no DQ, there's no countouts. As a matter of fact, you can win the match by escaping the cage. Now, sometimes in these cage matches, somebody wants to get out. I honestly don't think there's a situation here where either of us want to get out of this cage. Now, when the push comes to shove and it gets a little physical in there, one of us might want to get out of there in time to get the win. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to be looking at someone who wants to get pinned or submitted in this match. But there's no rope breaks. If you're in a submission, you can't get to the rope. You just got to survive. And I think that's going to be the name of the game, is how much can you take? And over the course of my career, I have been very good at enduring in these types of matches.
I spoke to Triple H chief content
officer
officer the other day. We all know the 14-time champion that he was before he became an executive. And
all right, so that was Seth Rollins on First Take talking about his steel cage match with Braun Breaker. And as you guys know, I'm a huge Braun Breaker fan. Before Braun Breaker's injury, I was singing his praises. I'm like, look, this is the year of Braun Breaker potentially becoming the heavyweight champion of the world or a WWE champion, but the injury derailed him. And that injury kind of lost his momentum. He had their match at Backlash, was excellent. Braun Breaker's breakout performance. Braun Breaker's had breakout moments, but he had yet to have that breakout match, and that's what he had at Backlash. And I don't think this will be any different. The only thing is, again, this kind of has SummerSlam implications written all over it, because Seth is also talking about he wants to get back his heavyweight championship of the world, and Roman has that championship. And he never lost it. So, again, when it comes to the whole Oba Femi winning King of the Ring, that throws a caveat in it, because I will believe Oba Femi is going to go after Roman, and then you hear them talking about that's the WrestleMania main event if they can't get Dwayne, and then should Braun Breaker win this match, because Braun Breaker is the young up and coming star? What would Seth Rollins do if he does have a loss to Braun Breaker coming out of this? So a lot of interesting things are coming, a lot of interesting takes you can have when it comes to this story. And I'm not sure where you guys will be going to, but I'm leaning towards that Seth Rollins wins this match, because he had the sit down interview on Raw Monday night where he discussed that he has to put an end to what he created. And with help of the Street Profits, and he also did help the Street Profits win the tag team championships on Raw. With the help of the Street Profits, they kind of put him in his place, got him back to where he needs to be. And now Seth Rollins will go on to face Braun Breaker in the cage. I'm going to go with Seth Rollins to win this match, even though Braun should win, but I am going to go with Seth to defeat Braun Breaker. Next up, United States Championship is going to be on the line as Trick Williams defended his U.S. title against Ricky Shanks. But we're going to go somewhere first. So, because shout out to Trick, because Trick had a hell of a weekend. Trick Williams recently, he got married over the weekend to Lash Legend, as you know. We feel about Lash on this show. So Trick recently did get married over the weekend, and I'll have to pull that up. But yeah, so before I pull that up, so Trick Williams, the U.S. title on the line. Ricky Sainz, he would defeat Carmelo Hayes in no more contenders match to get this opportunity. Now, when it comes to Ricky Sainz has not gotten the best response on the main roster. He just hasn't. And is it a chance here where we could possibly see Trick drop the title to Ricky Sainz? How big of a deal do they feel Ricky Sainz will be? That's the question, because at this point, Trick Williams doesn't really necessarily need that title. Now, if you want to just sit there and try to test out the whole idea, the whole Ricky Sainz experiment, then they can. But what would that mean for Trick, even though Trick doesn't necessarily need the championship? So I'm going to go on I'm going to go with the long one here. I'm going to go with Ricky Sainz to win the U.S. title. I am, shockingly. I think that he's going to have – I think he needs – I think they're trying to really make Ricky Sainz something. I really do. And I think this is where Ricky Sainz will win the U.S. title. And I think they'll try to make a big deal, and we'll see where things go, because we also still have the whole Trick Williams and Melo thing as well that they still have not really gone back to, but now Ricky Sainz has inserted himself into the situation. So I'm going to go with Ricky Sainz to win. I think they're trying to make something out of Ricky Sainz on the main roster. So now I got it up now, guys. So we'll divert real quick. We'll go to Trick Williams' wedding over the weekend. Look at that lemon pepper stepper. Look at him and Lash. Oh, hold on. Because you know WWE don't play, y'all. Look at Lash. I mean, look at Trick. Looks like a great time. So salute to Lash and Trick on tying the knot over the weekend. So next up, we have for the WWE Championship the triple threat match: Cody Rhodes, Gunther, Sami Zayn. Now, Gunther, brilliantly, who I thought I might add, he inserted Sami Zayn as the referee. Thought Sami Zayn would call it right down the middle. Match gets restarted, and Sami Zayn costs Gunther the WWE Championship. And now we're here. He thought he hired the right person, but he didn't. Sami Zayn said, "No matter what, I had next." So now we have the triple threat match. Now, like I said, this is not what I want for Cody at all, but this is what we're getting. I thought it was interesting with the inclusion of Sami Zayn as the referee. And I don't want to say they botched it. They made it more interesting, but we do know that we were eventually going to get a triple threat match, and that's how we are here now. So I'm going to go. I don't have much to say about this match. I don't. So I think I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes to retain the championship, and then I think Cody Rhodes will get that one-on-one match with Sami Zayn at one of the events we have in July coming up. Because we have a Saturday night's main event coming up. I don't think this will be the SummerSlam match, but I do think Sami Zayn will finally get that one-on-one match with Cody. But do not expect Cody to lose the title heading into SummerSlam. I predicted Gunther last week. It did not happen, but at this point, I really do not see anybody else winning the championship. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about Cody Rhodes. Well, I didn't have Cody Rhodes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about your predictions for Night of Champions. Leave all your predictions in the comments, please. Now, all right. All right. So now, WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman recently did a very rare interview with Chris Van Vliet earlier this week, and like I said at the top of the show, he gave us a lot of insight, no pun intended. So we'll start right here, because little did we know that the beloved Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman tandem almost didn't happen. So let's go to Chris Van Vliet and Paul Heyman's conversation about Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. Fair use.
To this tribal chief.
Brock Lesnar is obviously tremendously talented and incredible athlete. But I'm curious, what does Brock Lesnar's career look like without Paul Heyman?
Brock Lesnar would still be massively successful. I wonder what Paul Heyman's career would look like without Brock Lesnar. My legacy in my early days was the Dangerous Alliance in WCW. That legacy changed with the work I put in with ECW. I came out of ECW and I'm in WWE. And what would my legacy have been in WWE? Well, that certainly changed when I got put with Brock Lesnar. And then to the point where just me sitting on a couch with Roman Reigns because I'm Brock Lesnar's advocate was an incredible shift in the dynamic in WWE because you couldn't imagine Brock Lesnar's advocate with another top star like Roman Reigns. What would Brock Lesnar's career have been? Massively successful, just not the same as it was. We are a very unique pairing, and we work well together behind the scenes, and that transpires on camera. There's a camaraderie. There's a trust between us. There's a pursuit of greatness amongst us.
So with the pairing of Paul and Brock, as much fatigue as we've gotten over the years with the two, the combination will always work. The chemistry is always there. Let's continue.
That permeates the screen. And there's a closeness to us that you can sense as we bounce off of each other. And it works. And we're in sync with each other when he's performing in the ring. Would he have been fine without Paul Heyman? Absolutely. Brock Lesnar is the modern day Jim Thorpe. He's the greatest athlete on the face of the planet. There's no one like Brock Lesnar. And he is the most underappreciated, underrated in-ring worker I have ever seen in my life.
I agree. The whole stigma that Brock has is valid, but when it's time to put his dancing shoes on, he will. If you go back to the match with AJ Styles, or his stuff earlier in his career, you would see that when it's time to put the dancing shoes on, Brock Lesnar will put the dancing shoes on. Let's continue.
Where did the idea of him debuting with you even come from?
I don't know how much of this will have to be edited. I was actually scheduled to come back at that WrestleMania 18.
Because you had called WrestleMania 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then was the color commentator for Jim Ross through Survivor Series. Then WWE defeated the Alliance, and I was off camera. I was coming back on camera, WrestleMania 18, to manage, I hate that word, Chris Benoit. And that was where we were headed. And
so some insight with that. So after Benoit was out at King of the Ring 2001, so he missed the rest of in June. So he missed the rest of 2001, including the Alliance stuff. And he will return, I believe, May of 2002. But he was also involved in the draft in 2002 as well. And I say he would not return until May of 2002. So this is interesting because the night after WrestleMania 18 is when Brock Lesnar made his debut when he destroyed the Hardys.
This is like 01, like late.
02.
So early 02. Okay.
Brock was very impatient in OVW and moved back to Minneapolis and told WWE, put me on the main roster or cut me loose. So WWE was bringing Brock Lesnar in for dark matches. Brock standing in the middle of the ring during the afternoon, and all these old timers are there. Jack Lanza, Tony Gurria, the previous regime of producers. And it's the same thing. Just stand in the middle of the ring, kid. You'll be fine. Just let everybody bounce off of you. Don't move too much. He should be a Russian. He's an NCAA Division I heavyweight champion. Look at his combine numbers. Look at what he can do. Look at his leaping ability. Look at the way that he moves. Have you ever seen anyone move like that, let alone someone of that size move like that? And listen to his name. You couldn't think of a better name for a fighter. Brock Lesnar. And you want him to be a Russian? And Taz brought him over to me because Taz was such a huge fan of Brock's amateur career. And Taz said, hey, brother, they're going to screw this up. You got to get involved in this over here. Because Taz had experienced that with me in ECW when he was the Taz Maniac, and we turned him into the MMA fighter Taz. Taz was the first person in pro wrestling that started having people tap out. So I went to Vince and I said, hey, we have a heavy investment in Brock Lesnar. We're going to screw this up. Oh, damn it. Do something about that. Take over his matches. You produce them. So I started producing his matches, and we just went by the theory of simple, spotlighted, singular. We just kept his matches to that. It would resonate. It would translate to the audience. And in that, we found a chemistry with each other that was undeniable. And Vince experienced it in the room with us at one point. And the night before WrestleMania 18, Vince pulled me aside and he said, this whole thing with Benoit's called off.
As it should have been.
Okay? I'm putting you with Brock Lesnar. Okay. Happy to be of service. Because I knew this is a once ever opportunity. And that's a once ever athlete. And this will be a once ever act.
You know, it's the moment.
All right. So that's interesting to actually hear, because it's good to hear that that Brock always had the same energy, and that I can always appreciate that. He's been like this way since day one. And how different would have things would have been if Heyman wasn't with Brock? Like, Paul Heyman meant a lot to Brock. He was the mouthpiece. Brock never necessarily did a bunch of talking. When he became a face in 2003, that's when he did most of his talking. But Brock was never a big talker, and Paul Heyman was the big selling point when it came to Brock Lesnar. Like, I remember when Brock would debut in 2002. I believe after the match at Backlash with Jeff Hardy, that Paul on commentary, JR would say Heyman might have actually found something here. And 2002 would eventually become the summer of Brock. Now, but I said, very interesting to hear this, that it almost wasn't Brock Lesnar. Brock was ready to leave. Vince put them two together. And let me know what you guys thoughts about what if Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman were not put together, and what Brock Lesnar's career would look like in your guys' opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now, another part of this interview was the story in the birth of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. So, as you guys know, Paul Heyman would be paired with Roman Reigns, and he would be Roman Reigns' wise man. And when it happened in 2020 at Payback, it was a night after SummerSlam. Yes, I believe it was the night after SummerSlam And they panned to the shot. Well, SmackDown after SummerSlam. They panned to the shot of Heyman sitting next to Roman. And a lot of us were intrigued because we couldn't believe that those two were actually together. So Paul Heyman, he also sat down to discuss that story with Chris Van Vliet as well. Fair use.
It's interesting because there's that moment in 2020, and wrestling's in a weird spot with COVID, when that camera pans out and Roman Reigns is sitting on the couch next to you, everything changed. As I understand, Vince didn't like this couch you were sitting on. What's the story behind that?
Vince thought the couch was not opulent enough for a character that was then going to end up being called the Tribal Chief. And I can't disagree with him, but we were in a rush to get that done. And the original idea was for us both to return at SummerSlam and then be on TV that Friday and lead into, was it Backlash or Payback?
Stop.
That weekend that we built to in the rematch where the title went to the Tribal Chief Roman. And I thought, let Roman return, give that moment to the big dog. And then that Friday on television, he's not cooperative in the triple threat. He's not cooperative with Adam Pearce. You know something's up, but you can't put your finger on it. And go to him sitting on the couch and Pearce is looking over going, what the fuck is Heyman doing there? But you don't know that Heyman's sitting there.
So if you guys don't remember some context here, Roman did not sign the contract for the match at SummerSlam until the match at SummerSlam, literally on the ramp. So continue.
And at the last second, pull out because Roman says, that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. And you see Brock Lesnar's advocate sitting with Roman Reigns after all these years. And I just hit Roman's tagline of believe that and off the air. So for 5 seconds, you see us together and you did I just see that? You know, you're rubbing your eyes and you can't believe what you saw. And then that weekend, get the title on Roman. And then the next Friday is our first appearance truly together in front of the cameras as a unit, presenting our case as to why this act is a game-changing act and will create history in WWE.
That absolutely changed Roman Reigns' career. Like becoming the Tribal Chief absolutely changed things for him. What was the brainchild behind the Tribal Chief?
Apocalypse Now. Marlon Brando's portrayal of Kurtz. If you watch Apocalypse Now, it's Francis Ford Coppola's great epic.
Masterpiece.
And it's about a warrior, Kurtz, or a wrestler, Roman Reigns, who is a warrior of such magnificence that he takes over an entire island. Well, it's not the island of Samoa, but it can be the island of relevancy. In that he takes over the entire island, everyone on that island, well, let's say that's members of the bloodline and the wise man, and at some point, Sami Zayn. But all the constituents on the island look to this general. Well, let's not call him a general. Let's call him a tribal chief. For food, shelter, security, sustainability, and life. And they all rely on the general the tribal chief for that. And they all worship. But let's not use the word worship. Let's use the word acknowledge.
Genius.
So they all acknowledge their tribal chief for the many things that he brings them: life, security, food, shelter. And at some point, it's not just the responsibility and the obligation and the accountability, it's the burden. It's the burden that every constituent on that island relies on the general, relies on the tribal chief for food, shelter, security, safety. And that burden weighs heavy. And the leader, Kurtz, Reigns, tribal chief, becomes resentful of the very constituents that worship / acknowledge him, to where when Martin Sheen kills Brando in Apocalypse Now, he opens the diary, it says, drop the bomb, kill them all. So the burden of being tribal chief weighs down on Roman Reigns to where he starts abusing Jey Uso. He starts abusing Jimmy Uso. He takes his frustrations out on Sami Zayn, and he makes life uncomfortable for all those around him who choose to acknowledge him. It's a microphone pass. When we first decided that we're going to do a microphone pass because the tribal chief would never have an underling, just a peasant, just a common person, deliver the microphone. It has to be his own personal wise man. You want to deliver something to the tribal chief, you give it to me, I give it to him.
Yeah.
So in the first incarnation of this concept, okay, I'll pass you the microphone, and Roman would hold out, because I was always on the left of the tribal chief.
And that was by design too.
Everything we did was by design. Everything was overthought. The alternatives were thought about. Is this the absolute epitome? Is this the apex of where we can take this, and what message does it send, or messages does it send out? So I have to go like this, but if his hand is here, that's an easy pass.
All in the detail.
Make it the right hand. Make me reach across, so that at any time, if I brush against the tribal chief, it's off with my head. You can't touch the tribal chief. You can't screw up that way. You don't brush up against the tribal. He brushed up against the tribal chief. Off with his head. That's it. That's it. You lose your head on the island, you become irrelevant. You're back into the ocean of obscurity. So every time I reached across, it was with trepidation, and then he would grab the microphone, and I pulled my hand back. Oh, what a pass. It became the highlight of my day.
Yeah.
Because I survived the very moment where my execution could take place if I screwed up just that much. Because that also demonstrated how fearsome of a tribal chief he was. That as much as we all say, I love you, my tribal chief, I acknowledge you, my tribal chief, we're definitely afraid of the tribal chief.
Hey, if you were watching Backlash, you may have seen a...
So that was Paul Heyman on the story of the tribal chief and Roman Reigns. Now, when it comes to that story, it's very interesting that those two came together. Like Paul Heyman said, when they panned to that shot of Heyman with Roman, it was like, wow, we never thought we would see these guys together because of what was going on between the two through the Brock Lesnar storyline. Heyman was always on Brock Lesnar's side. So we did not have any thought that we would ever see those two actually together at all. And to see what this became, because Roman Reigns, if you guys do not remember also, Roman Reigns took a hiatus from WWE during COVID because of his health issues. So he was replaced by Braun Strowman going into WrestleMania to challenge Goldberg for the Universal Championship. And when Roman Reigns ended up returning at Payback, it was a complete surprise to any and everybody because we did not expect him to be back. And you saw Vince wanted him to be the big dog as well when he could return, but they had to go a different route. You hear the story of the tribal chief. And Roman Reigns, like that whole big dog thing, that story got pretty much that story got pretty much stale, even though we didn't see him for a while. So we're excited to see Roman Reigns. But then we hear the story about how the tribal chief is actually built and all the little minor details, and those things resurrected Roman Reigns. And despite me and many others having bloodline fatigue, gave us probably the most interesting story or best story that one of the best stories they've ever told. So let me know what you guys think about Paul Heyman and the birth of the tribal chief. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Clip. All right. All right. Also, in that interview with Chris Van Vliet, Paul Heyman also talked about Paul Heyman guys and the stigma behind them. So, if you guys don't remember, in 2014, there were some new recruits of Paul Heyman guys. One would be Antonio. Well, one would be Cesaro, and also another one in 2013 would be Curtis Axel. Curtis Axel is the son of WWE Hall of Famer Mr. Perfect. And he would also be a Paul Heyman guy, and Paul Heyman would also lead him to the Intercontinental Championship in 2013 as well. And Paul Heyman guys, they always got a label on them. And Paul Heyman also sat down to discuss the idea of Paul Heyman guys in that interview with Chris Van Vliet. Fair use. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to have to edit this out. Close my tab by mistake. All right, guys, I got it.
Everyone. I remember John Cena worked with him on television and came back and looked at Vince and said, I could main event WrestleMania with. And probably could have and should have. Cesaro was placed in that position the day after Brock Lesnar conquered the streak, so that when Brock took his hiatus, I had an excuse to be on television to say, my client, Brock Lesnar, conquered The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. And you needed an excuse to have me out there on television. And if you put me on commentary, I can't say it for 2 or 3 hours. I have to say it with impact once a week. Just drill that into your head. Reinforcement, repetition. And so Cesaro became the excuse
to see you.
See me say the line.
Yeah.
Curtis Axel was cast as Paul Heyman guy, generic Paul Heyman guy.
He was.
You may as well have put a mask on him and call him.
When it comes to Curtis Axel, a lot of people might forget that Curtis Axel was maybe the most random Paul Heyman guy. Curtis Axel, he was fresh out of the new Nexus, and when that's essentially wasn't really doing anything. And when he got introduced as a Paul Heyman guy, they kind of give him a mini push. You know, he won the IC title and had a small run with it, but he never had the aura of Paul Heyman guy. So when Paul Heyman says he's generic, that's pretty much as generic as it can get. Continue.
Mad Russian, Mr. X, the assassin, the punk destroyer, so that we could feed the babyface CM Punk. And that's a shame for Curtis Axel, because he had a lot more to offer, but he delivered in those matches with Punk, and that was the assignment. And once that assignment was over, there was no plan to propel him further. And he didn't have the cachet to go in and pitch for something that would continue the momentum coming out of that program.
So there wasn't a long-term plan for either of those guys.
I don't believe so. If there was, I was never clued in on it. When I was told I was getting Curtis Axel, my question was, what are we doing with this? And Vince's answer was going all the way to the top. I don't think Vince really felt that about him. And I don't think, I mean, I could tell by the third week I was with Cesaro, oh, I understand what we're doing here. I get it. I see this, how this is going to play out. As soon as Brock is back, this is going to get discarded.
Because if Cesaro had any weakness, maybe it's his promos aren't strong enough. Pair him with Paul Heyman. Oh my gosh, he's unstoppable.
See, but I think Cesaro was fascinating on the microphone if he were to be given the opportunity to demonstrate his skills. The man spoke 5 languages fluently.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people do that. Again, I'm a cinemaphile. Watching Glorious Bastards, watch Christoph Waltz, and when he does the scene,
at the beginning,
he speaks German.
Yeah.
Well, he speaks German, in the movie. He speaks English in the movie, and then Brad Pitt's crew are all speaking in Italian. Dominic De Chico, Gorlami, and then all of a sudden, Waltz comes in with and he starts speaking in this operatic tone in fluent Italian, and you sit there and go, oh my God, look at this. If Cesaro was given the opportunity to answer every question in a different language, you'd have seen a side of his personality, because he will put emphasis in the dialect, and you will see his mannerisms match the dialect that he's presenting. So I think Cesaro could have been a fascinating promo if he was given the chance to do that in WWE. He wasn't. And that's our fault. That is a major fumble. That was a crime that was committed against the career of Cesaro, and a crime that was committed against the audience for not allowing this gifted performer to do what, at the time, certainly he could do better than most anybody else on the face of the planet. And by the way, when you realize what he's capable of, what an opponent he could have been for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Had I turned on Cesaro,
right,
and we built him up to be a threat to Brock, the matches the two of them could have had are mind-boggling. A tremendously wasted opportunity. And
all right, so that was Paul Heyman about the other Paul Heyman guys, and I am 100% in agreement with Paul Heyman when it comes to Cesaro. Cesaro, he was a very interesting person in WWE. They were paired together the night after WrestleMania 30, where Cesaro won the inaugural Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And we saw those guys together. We was like, okay, we buy this guy as a Paul Heyman guy. We buy these two actually together. And people were like, okay, maybe one day we'll get him against Brock, because Cesaro is a guy that you could put in the ring with anybody and magic would happen. Heyman said in the top of the interview that John Cena will always vouch for him backstage with Vince, and Cesaro was definitely 100% a fan favorite, especially from a ring perspective. He was always a favorite of the fans that actually watched it, no matter who he was facing. The Cesaro swing was 100% over. And like I said, in 2014, that might have been peak Cesaro hype in WWE, especially immediately him being after a Paul Heyman guy. But we also did know that nobody is trumping Brock Lesnar when it comes to Paul Heyman. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about Cesaro and Curtis Axel and other Paul Heyman guys that failed in the past. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right. What the hell? All right, let's get it. All right. So, does Cody Rhodes have one more story to finish? Cody Rhodes recently sat down with Ariel Helwani and he discussed possibly finishing a story that is unfinished. Fair use.
Was WrestleMania, and then the emergence of probably one of the better characters that we've only seen a little bit of it being the final boss. I don't want to give it an absolute and say that we do have to settle that, but I think it's an unfinished story. There's probably 2 unfinished stories that are out there, and they don't always get finished. You know, wrestling is, there's a lot of fantasy booking. There's a lot of ways, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a version of this where finishing that story is me trying to be as successful as I possibly can be, follow a bit of, if not a lot of his lead, break into TV in Hollywood and do something that he thought only he could do, and do that to honor him. Then there's a version of it that's probably more appealing to a wrestling fan where the final boss shows back up and there is more, on the rose than a non-ending. So I can't answer that one, Ariel. I think you'll probably get the chance to talk to him. I can say as a wrestler, we get a little trepidatious, or we don't get super excited when people, tease he might be there, or leak it, or drop something that's misleading, solely because we're the ones here on the ground who are trying to pull this wagon. And you know me, I love nostalgia for nostalgia, but it's got to be current. It's got to be active. And right now we need active. We need Trick Williams is a prime example. We need that to move and grow, and it's doing that right now. So sorry if that's a half answer.
But yeah, you did say there's 2 stories. What's the other one? You said there's 2 stories.
Oh, well, you'll have to, I can't give you everything.
Okay. Here, I have to ask the follow-ups. You open the door, I got to try to walk through it.
Yeah, no, it's a good follow-up. You're very good at this. You're very good.
I'll let you go in a moment.
All right. So that was Cody Rhodes on potentially finishing the story with The Rock. So as we know, we wrestling fans aren't the happiest with Dwayne. We're not the most happiest with Dwayne at this moment in time. Especially that whole WrestleMania, that John Cena heel turn, nothing coming of it, is still has a stink on it for everybody else. So does Cody and The Rock have to finish the story? I think so. There were so many unanswered things, because if you guys remember the night after WrestleMania 40, they had the interaction in the ring, Rock touched the belt, and then, as we all know, going into WrestleMania last year, The Rock was after Cody's soul and asked him to be his champion. Pause. But there's a lot there still. And as much as people are down on Dwayne at this point in time, we all know that The Rock is also a huge draw. As I said last week, that's not The Rock on the board. That is Dwayne Johnson. But we also know that when Dwayne Johnson's called in to be The Rock, we all know that everybody's going to watch. We know everybody's going to react, and we know everybody is going to tune in. And that is a story that I think a lot of people will get behind a babyface Cody Rhodes behind, because we know this story has to be finished. Cody talked about that, how we didn't see that story for very long. So there's so much that could be left with the story with Dwayne Johnson, because the final boss was probably the most popular character and helped WWE peak for a while, for the most times in years. 2 years ago going to WrestleMania 40. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think Cody Rhodes need to finish the story with The Rock? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right. Will Mercedes Moné go back-to-back? Mercedes Moné, she is in the finals of the Owen Hart tournament, and she will face Maya World, who upset Athena on Collision. And this is interesting here because, as you guys know, me and Eric, we have been adamant about Mercedes Moné in her run in AEW and how great, and it's how it kind of did a 180. You know, I talked about how she did a 180 when it came to the whole idea of working with Harley Cameron. That was a great thing. That kind of brought Mercedes back into a lot of people good graces. And then, like I said, her match with her feud with Toni Storm, I thought was actually good. The match was great, and what she was doing, she kind of eventually found her footing in AEW, and it was good to actually see. Now she will be facing off against Maya World, who did defeat Athena, and it's really fun to see because Maya World's a young wrestler, a young up and coming wrestler, and her and Mercedes, you know, she looked up to Mercedes. She really did. She did, and it's good to see because you guys can see from here. Wrong clip. Bump that, guys. Sorry, wrong clip. But her and Mercedes were actually friends. Hey, Noda King, I'm not facing anybody at Night of Champions. Thanks for tuning in, man. So when it comes to Mercedes, it's interesting because the whole thing was that Mercedes is still trying to capture the AEW Women's World Championship. And with capturing the AEW Women's World Championship, she's come up short every single time. And every single time, it was like, all right, well, when's she going to do it? And at the end of the year, she would eventually crash out and lose her mind and take time off, and she would lose all her titles in the process. But now we had the Mercedes return as the wild card, and she's coming to rectify what was wrong and finally potentially win the big one. Now, Maya World, up and coming star in AEW, Maya World got that upset victory over Athena, and Mercedes and Athena would attack her after the match. And it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing because, like I said, like there's an image out there of the two, and Maya World really looked up to Mercedes. So when we have these storylines, it's very interesting to see that actually happening because these women nowadays, they're at the point where they're wrestling their heroes, and that is one of the best storylines you can actually tell in wrestling here. Now, I do not think Maya World is going to win this match at all. I do think that Mercedes will finish the story, but I do think this will be one hell of a match. And I love the video package they actually shot for this on Dynamite. I'm not going to play it because I'm not sure if the AEW copyrights things, but you know, like I got the picture up right here. Like these two, like Maya World. When's this picture from? This is from last year, and the caption is young Moné raised me. Look at the two. Look at them. Let me see here. Look at them. Check them out. that's Maya World and Mercedes. You know, she's a fan. She's a fan of Mercedes. You know, Mercedes is at the point where she's wrestling the women that looked up to her, and I am very much looking forward to this match and looking forward to what happens at Forbidden Door between these two. And again, I'm going to go with Mercedes winning the Owen Hart Cup, going back to Owen Hart Cup, going back to back. But I do think that Maya World will put on a hell of a show, and Maya World will make a name for herself in the process. She is in the ring with Mercedes, and we already know Mercedes is going to make you look good, and she doesn't necessarily have bad matches. So looking forward to that. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Will Mercedes go back to back and defeat Maya World and go on to face the AEW Women's World Champion this summer? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right. Now, there's one more clip that I want to talk about. So somebody in NXT that I've been high on for a long time. Thanks for tuning in, Noah. I really appreciate you. So somebody else I've been high on NXT for a long time. Let me start this again. Somebody I've been high on for a long time in NXT is Kalani Jordan. Now, Kalani Jordan, I talked about when she was on her babyface run that I think she's a heel turn away. Now, she's a former NXT W North American champion. She's also a former TNA Knockouts champion. And I was on Instagram and I stumbled across this clip that I really found that was interesting about Kalani Jordan. And I want to play it for you guys. I'm going to link the content creator in the description.
Not even close to being. I think we could have a really good product with Kalani Jordan because I really think she has a bright future. Y'all know she was one of my first picks to go to main card. Hasn't happened yet. I think it will, though. Again, representation-wise with Kalani Jordan, I think something about her is that it shows you don't always have to be the stereotypical, aggressive, Black girl stereotype they want you to be. That's what Kalani Jordan shows. If they lean into that likability more in her being a face versus her trying to be a heel, which I think is something that she's not even close to being, I think we could have a really good product with Kalani Jordan because I really think she has a bright future. Y'all know she was one of my first picks to go to main card. Hasn't happened yet. I think it will.
All right, so that was Micah Misfit on Instagram on her thoughts about Kalani Jordan. And I have to agree when it comes to this about Kalani Jordan. As I've said, I've been a huge fan of Kalani Jordan since she debuted. Because as I've continued to say, I do not know what super soldier serum that they're feeding them, those ladies out there, because the way they take to this and get it so quick is phenomenal. And Kalani Jordan, like I said, she won the W North American Championship, the TNA Knockout Championship. I thought the TNA Knockout Championship storyline, getting her to turn heel, was done and executed very well. A lot of people, they're not necessarily feeling the whole Kalani Jordan heel turn, but I'm not against it. I think she's done a really good job as a heel. I prefer as a baby face, but I do think she's done an amazing job as a heel. And I do think she has all the tangibles to get this to be one of the next biggest stars within the company. I do hope NXT Women's Championship match is in her future because she's been fantastic, but at the moment of time, we have Lola Vice and Kendall Gray, who I think is the future of this business as well. But I think Kalani Jordan, I think she might not have the three eyes of Kendall Gray, but I do think Kalani Jordan has a tad bit more star appeal. I think Kalani Jordan can actually be phenomenal in WWE, and I cannot wait to see her on the main roster. But I would love her to get a little bit more time at NXT, and I think she should be the NXT Women's Champion. I think she should get that run, but because I thought she was great as a North American Champion and a Knockouts Champion, and I'm enjoying the heel run. But I do agree that she is 100% a baby face. But I'm a big Kalani Jordan fan, and I cannot wait to see what they do with her. Are you guys Kalani Jordan fans? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, guys. So sorry for some technical difficulties, but that is the stream for tonight. So as always, guys, thumbs up, turn on post notifications, anything for the algorithm. I appreciate you guys for tuning in with me this late. Shout out to you, Noah, for the comments. I appreciate you. So, guys, I'm Alo Lloyd, and I will see you guys next week.
Got him now, put him down right now, hit him with the palm handle. Tuning up the band, y'all don't understand. Fist of Superman, it's a SummerSlam. Here we go again. Fans marking man, I hate my balls. Shut the Vince McMahon, it ain't safe to land off the cell. Fans love it, ain't hard to tell. Talking madness, awesome. Well, what I'm cooking, man, y'all off the